Today we get to speak with Braxton Spence.
Hey, mom.
Very excited to have Braxton with us today. And this is my first interview that's more on the technology track, which I'm really excited about. But first, I'd just like to start with Braxton, just sharing a little bit about your high school experience.
Well, my high school looks a lot different than theirs probably does. we, let's see. So the stuff I was involved with would be stuff like I was on the math team, WISE, French. I was outstanding French student 4 years in a row. I was president of the French club. I was captain of the French Scholar Bowl team, and one of the co-founders of the robotics team and co-captain of that. I think that's most of it. There's some other things. I was in Model UN and choir, and yeah, I think that's about it.
The French club is no more, but robotics is going strong.
Oh, well, that's bittersweet, I guess. That's good.
Yeah, it's they're really doing. We have two teams. So,
yes. Is it still the Transistor Titans and the Ohms Olympians?
Yes.
Good.
Right.
Great.
So
I think I came up with the Transistor Titans name. I'm not even
kidding. Braxton was in my AP Econ class and was just a lot of fun and valuable information. And actually, the first student to want to discuss or to actually share information about blockchain and Bitcoin. You probably don't even remember that conversation.
I don't.
We were talking, it was in econ, and we were talking about, we were on the financial markets unit, and we were talking about, what constitutes a currency. And then we started talking about Bitcoin, and you did your best to explain to the rest of us what it was.
I must have had no idea what I was talking about.
What year did you graduate, Braxton?
2013.
Okay, so that was 7 or 8 years ago that we had that discussion, and so a lot has gone on in that industry for sure since we talked.
I don't think they're having a great time right now.
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone in any financial market right now is having a good time.
That's true.
Yeah. So once you graduated, would you mind to just share with my students the career path that you took and that kind of led to where you are today?
Sure. I'll actually start a bit before that. I started at Steak Bake and I got fired. So you can make it even with that. I was only a cashier. But then I think summer after my freshman year of college, I started with a company in Carbondale called Highline Ideas, doing web development, which I had already been doing before, just not like for money, just more as like a side project thing. And they mostly do like sites for businesses around Southern Illinois that are just like, mostly smaller businesses that just need like an online presence. They'll just give them like a brochure site essentially. Mm-hmm. There was some programming involved, but it was mostly just like going around and tweaking the way that things looked or like managing plugins in like WordPress. After that, I think my next job immediately after that was working at a company called RS21 that's based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I was working remotely for a bit, and they do stuff like geospatial data visualizations for like post-disaster stuff, and basically they're just trying to visualize data gathered around disasters, I think, for purposes of like making like communities more resilient to those type of things in the future. Like the visualizations kind of help to like show you what's worth investigating, I guess, instead of just looking at a bunch of spreadsheets. So I made this thing that was like a 3D map of all the buildings in a city, and like there was supposed to be traffic, but that project kind of got canned. After Resilient Solutions 21, I started working for a company called Protocol First, which does the healthcare system has so many acronyms. I can't even remember. I think they did EDC, which stands for like electronic data capture. Yeah, I think that's right. And that's where for clinical trials,
Okay.
doctors need a way to like input the information in a structured way and like meet compliance regulations and all that kind of stuff. So they had a website where you could like enter that info, like describe the structure of your clinical trial, and then design the forms, and then save the data in the forms. Um, and I did that for a little bit. That's when I moved up to Chicago from Urbana-Champaign, where I got my degree in computer science, my bachelor's. Um, and then after working at what's that company that I just said? After working at the healthcare company for a bit, now I'm working at a place called Arturo.
Okay.
Um, the website is arturo.ai. Basically, what we do is there is a data science team, and they make machine learning models that are able to take in imagery, so like aerial or satellite imagery of residential properties. It's like what you see on Google Earth when you like zoom in really close, so you can see like a house. Um, they'll take that image, and then their machine learning models can identify all kinds of features that are on that property. So like the roof, the material, the shape of the roof, the like damage if there is any on it, pools, trampolines, cars, sidewalks, driveways, trees, skylights, AC units, like all kinds of stuff. And so I don't actually do that cool part, but I do get the part that basically companies will give us an address, then we find location of that address, then we find imagery for that address, and then we send it to these machine learning models, and we get it back, all within the process of like 5 seconds for like a dozen or so machine learning models, and all the process of getting this imagery. And it's mostly useful for insurance companies. So we were actually a corporate spin out from American Family Insurance.
Okay.
Um, so that's still one of our biggest customers, and I am the principal engineer there right now.
Okay.
So
So, so the imagery is used by the insurance companies to know like that their insured people have everything covered. If there's a pool or if there's air conditioning units, or
yeah, that's part of it. I think so I don't know too much about the business side of things. I'm mostly focused on like putting out fires in our infrastructure, and trying to make sure that things go smoothly and like errors are handled, and like matters like logging, and there's actually some pretty difficult problems which I'll touch on later maybe, but insurance companies want to do that for like underwriting. It's also possible that we could use our tech to like identify roof damage before someone is aware of it, and then offer like the companies can use it to offer them assistance in repairing it before it got to a point where like something went wrong, and then like they had to pay more for it or
gotcha.
something. So
So
in some
prevent.
senses it could be used like that.
Okay, that's really neat. So, what is a day in the life like? What are the typical things that you would do? I don't know if you work from home typically or if you go into the office. Right now, everything looks different for everybody. But on a normal day outside of global pandemic, what's a typical day like for you?
So a typical day, I can't people can work remotely sparingly, because we are so like programming oriented, and you can just do that on any computer. Um, but most of the time I do prefer to go to the office, and my productivity has suffered since the pandemic because it's so much easier to communicate with people in person, obviously. But we start off every day with like a stand-up meeting where everyone talks about like what they're going to do today and what they did yesterday. And since I'm the principal engineer, I'm also involved in like too many meetings, frankly. Just a lot of like syncs with other people. So like the lead engineer and like the CTO, as well as just like fielding questions from a lot of the engineering team as to like why something isn't working the way they expected, or like helping them to get something promoted to production so that our customers can see the output from a new model. Debugging Python stuff with them, helping figure out like various technologies that we use. So yeah, but a lot of programming as well, obviously. We work in Python primarily, which is like sort of the de facto language for like machine learning and data science, or at least one of the top ones. Yeah, a lot of debugging, but it's fun. It's good.
I was just thinking as you were talking, wow, I wish I would have brought Mike Wynn in for this one, or someone to ask more of the tech side questions, because I'm sure there are going to be students out there that have questions that I don't even know to ask. You know what I mean? Because I don't know enough about your profession. Sadly, I am like the dinosaur teacher. I teach, accounting and marketing. But I'm glad that you shared what program you primarily use, because I'm sure there are people that will appreciate, knowing that. So, what skill sets do you think are most important for someone in your line of work?
I hate to say programming because it's like but that. I would say, so when you're taking like a CS degree, a lot of it's going to be focused on like more theoretical stuff, and like algorithmic complexity and data structures, and those are all like important to learn. But on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to be designing a new algorithm to like solve some huge problem efficiently. At least not in my specific subfield that I'm in right now. If you were working at a bigger company like Google or something, then maybe, but I don't anticipate that's actually what you'll see for quite a while when you begin your career. Most of the time, you're just going to be using like predefined data structures and patterns that like pretty much everyone uses in various programming languages. So like, because most people just want a website that does something simple. They don't need like, Facebook for dogs. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Most of what I would say would be like learning several different languages. So not just Python, like don't take one class that teaches you like C# or like Visual Basic. I don't know why I mentioned that one. Basically just like try to diversify like the languages with which you're familiar, because they all look fairly similar. And if you're able to like identify what stays the same amongst them, then it's a lot easier to work in like any environment, basically. So that, staying up to date on like sort of the biggest technologies in the field. So for example, at my company, there's what's called stacks, which are like groups of technologies that you use in order to deliver a product, essentially. So Python is part of our stack. We have to have that code running somewhere, and it's not on our laptops because it's a server that fields requests from these companies like all the time. So we use AWS, Amazon Web Services. They host all these like virtual machines for us. We run our code in what's called Docker containers, and we sort of orchestrate that using a tool called Kubernetes. So there's like a lot more stuff involved in programming than just one language or just one tool. It's pretty critical to like have a wide breadth of knowledge that isn't always captured by like a 4-year curriculum at a university or something like that, but it is still a really good idea to do that. There are a lot of other alternate paths for education nowadays, like there's coding boot camps, which are pretty common. I would be wary of those, but like not entirely dismissive. They vary a lot in like, quality and also the deals that they will give you in order to entice you to sort of come on board. But you don't actually need that much experience to get like an entry-level position in programming. But if you want to be good at it, then you have to like I said, get a wide breadth of knowledge on like tools, languages, patterns, and just general experience, unfortunately. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Now, I want to kind of follow up with that. So by, knowing lots of different programs or you mentioned not knowing components that are similar in the different programs, problem solving and transferable skills, like how important is that? Because
critical.
I'm assuming the languages do change and you have, your work, the programs you use change, but being a problem solver and being able to analyze problems and attack them, I would think that would be important.
Yeah, you said it better than I could, honestly. That's actually probably more important than any things that I just mentioned. Because, yeah, you essentially are solving problems. Like the tools that you use are going to maybe differ between company to company, but you're going to be like figuring out what their business concerns are, or, what the goals are, and then identifying the simplest way that you can implement that using what's available to you. in a way that, is correct and performant. So yeah, the problem solving is definitely a huge capability. Also, the ability to adapt and work on teams is pretty important, because you're never going to be making something on your own. Well, that's not true. I mean, sometimes you will, but in a business setting, the likelihood of you getting like a solo project that like you don't have to talk to anyone else is like almost zero.
Yeah.
So you're definitely going to have to learn how to like sort of navigate that sort of political area. And like, first of all code is bad. Like, it's just bad. It's a miracle that anything works anywhere ever. And should be praying that it will continue to do that. But sometimes people are going to present a solution that is like suboptimal, or that is just straight up like garbage fire, and you're going to have to like not say, oh, that's a garbage fire. Like, it's definitely important to be able to like, I think there's a sort of idea that like computer programmers are just this like lone wolf, like typing on a keyboard in a hoodie in the dark in the basement type thing. And as much as I like to do that, that's not what the reality is. And you do need some interpersonal skills in order to like actually implement your idea, even if it is objectively better sometimes. Like, you're going to have to work with other people. And with the problem solving stuff, like the problems that you're solving are going to be changing constantly, and it is a pain. Like, as soon as you get something done that like meets the requirements that were just set before you, those requirements are going to change, because now the people up top say like, oh, this would work better for this customer, or like, oh, they want this thing, like, can you do this? And it's a ride, but like, yeah, problem solving thing.
Constant change. And I was thinking, as you were talking about that, I'm sure some of your clients, like the people that may be running of the business that you're providing this for, they just only want to see the end result, right? Like, they just want to see like the pretty site, or the pretty program that's collecting data for them or whatever. And they are probably definitely not going to understand all the technical things to make those things happen. And so there's marketing involved with what you do too, because you're dealing with that side of things as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't have to do too much on the marketing side, but a lot of what our marketing sort of involves is just telling them truths that may be omitting a little bit about like what we can do or what we already have, and then they'll come back after having sold these things to other people and say like, okay, well, we need this now because we said that we have. Yeah. But a lot of marketing is kind of interesting in this field. That's mostly relegated to like our CEO and our new vice president of sales, I think. But they'll frequently go out to like conferences, or mostly for insurance. So basically the most fun and interesting place on the planet is insurance. And they'll have a blast there talking with, other random old guys about insurance, and, who knows. And then they'll come back saying like, okay, this company likes our product, but they want to use it for this. So like, for instance, I was talking mostly about like residential properties. So like people's houses. But we had one customer that wanted to use this sort of like aerial imagery inference stuff on commercial structures, which is entirely different, because commercial, like, think of the Walmart Marion, it's gigantic. Mm-hmm. So all the approaches that we were taking for like this small imagery where you could just kind of do it like one off went out the window. Like, now they would submit a request, and instead of getting back an answer immediately, they'd be like, okay, well, it'll be ready in a short period of time. We had to completely adapt for that. But the marketing for that, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how to effectively answer most questions about them.
I think you did. I think you did answer it. So the customers want something. They know what, or at least they think they know what their customers want. Mm-hmm. And because they're dealing with customers, and then you're supposed to be the magician that makes that happen somehow.
It's an eternal struggle, because like you get both sides of it. Like, obviously we need customers, and we need to like get new customers, and they're always going to want new stuff, and I'm never going to want to make that new stuff for them. Like, right now our product is such a mess under the hood. Like, there's always a conflict between developers and like managers of just like they want something and we do not want to do it, or like we want to fix something that's already there that's not working well.
Uh,
Um, and that's definitely something people are going to have to be aware of if they want to get into this field.
yeah, I think that's something you have to get comfortable with. Is you're never going to go like, okay, I'm done. Like this is good. Put a bow on it. You
And
know.
I hate that. I hate that so much because you want to have something good that's just like, I did it. It's done and it's perfect and I can leave it alone forever. And that's not how it is. For personal projects, you could probably manage something like that, which is nice, you know. But in a business world, like if you want to achieve any sort of significant growth in your company, then you're going to have to be constantly adapting what's happening.
Absolutely. So how do you, Braxton, how do you stay abreast of changes in trends, or, you know, like where technology is heading, or here's the new thing that is going to work, that's going to make our work more efficient?
So that's a bit of a contentious topic. There are various news outlets that I consult with, sort of just casually throughout the day because I'm interested in this sort of stuff. It all, just as a side note, it definitely helps to be interested in programming if you're wanting to do stuff like that, because in order to stay on top of those trends, you do kind of have to like do some extracurriculars like outside of work. Like you're not going to get allocated time and work to like go on Reddit. But that said, I do go on Reddit. There's a lot of programming communities on there that have like constant posts about like what's happening or like new technologies. I think there's one called like Hacker News, which is slightly different. That's run by like Yahoo Combinator or something. Those are my main two sources when I'm looking for like technical knowledge. Yeah, I think that's honestly the primary source of it. But especially in the programming world, like since there's such a low barrier for entry for any kind of new tech, like anyone can get a computer or even a smartphone and like program something.
Mhm.
It's easy to anonymously get the resources on which you need to deploy servers or anything. Like on AWS, it's so cheap to get like basic servers up. So there is a proliferance of all kinds of new technologies all the time. Everyone's got their new programming language that's going to solve everything for you. Everyone's got their new like deployment platform that's going to make everything easier. Like so many buzzwords, so many pointless things, and they all look flashy. And when you're coming into the field, it definitely is tempting to say like, oh, this thing looks so cool, and look at this example that they showed, and look how simple it made it. And it might make that specific example simple, but the likelihood that that thing is going to work flawlessly for your business concern or like your existing code or integrate well with all your stuff is like very low. It's always going to involve significantly more effort than they will pitch to you to like use this new tech, and it becomes a question of evaluating like risk versus reward for this type of thing. And I would argue that most of the time it's just not worth taking on a new thing, because like you want new developers to be able to come onto your team and be productive like sort of out of the gate. And if you're learning something new and they're also learning something new, then if problems come up, like neither of you are going to really know how to fix it yet. It's not well established. So yeah, while it is important to like stay on top of new tech, I basically mean that as in like once you've seen the same word like 1,000 times, then maybe start to look into it. But
Gotcha.
just someone's one-off like random project with whose name is like missing vowels because that's what's trendy to do in programming languages and all kinds of things. Like maybe like take it down a notch or something.
That's good to know. And I would think that someone in your position has to really sift through a lot, you know,
Mm,
so
yeah,
that could be overwhelming.
yeah. Our CTO has sent me like 2 things in the last week that's like, oh, look at this that might work and make everything. It's not going to make everything simpler. Like, just, I don't need my time wasted with this right now. Like the last one is like some red team as a service thing. So they wanted to like pay other people to try and hack our thing for us to show us where security flaws are. It sounds great, but I already know our stuff is insecure. I know the places where it's been broken. Like I don't need someone. I don't know. We don't need to pay someone to tell me that. So like all this flashy stuff is not super necessary.
Yeah, I mean, this has been really just good for me to hear. And learn from you about this industry, because yeah, that's a lot to take in. I appreciate the good advice that you give to our students, and I hope that one of these days when we open back up and you're home, maybe we can get you into the high school to talk to some of our technology courses. I would just get to stand by and watch because I don't know anything about it. But I love seeing our alums succeed in whatever that is. And so this has been really good to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm down for that possibility. Thanks for talking to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.